Hey, my name is Neil Parfit. You've never heard of me, doesn't matter. Today I'm going to show you a video of the unboxing of an Apple Mac Pro rack. I am a music professional. I work on television and movie soundtracks. Maybe you've heard of some of them, maybe you haven't. Doesn't matter. I work in the business day in, day out full time. So my perspective is from a working professional. You can agree, disagree, I don't care. I had to make my decisions and here we are. My credit card isn't happy, but I'm kind of happy because I have this big shiny computer. That being said, I am not an Apple fanboy. I made a decision almost 22 years ago while I was still on PC that has brought me into this ecosystem I can't escape. So even though there's, the thread rippers and all that kind of stuff in the Windows PC side, there's Hackintoshes, whatever, I can't go there. I run a business, I lean on these machines day in, day out. I have clients that come in. I can't take those kind of business risks. So for me, it was a calculated purchase through my company, and I'll get more into that in another video. But for now, that's just a little bit of the backstory. So let's get on with it. Let's unbox this beast and see what it's all about. So here's my cat, and I just wanted to put her here just to give you a perspective on how big this Mac Pro rack mount box is. Look at this thing. It's literally the size of an appliance. Like if I was buying a microwave or something, like it is massive, and it weighs about 85 pounds. And the interesting thing is the computer only weighs 50. So the rest of that weight is just sheer packaging protection. And that's fantastic because this thing was coming from California. I'm up in Toronto, so it has a lot of miles to go. And it was also being shipped by so I was a little bit nervous because I have a little bit of a history with those guys. But yeah, it arrived here. It's in one piece. So we'll be on to the next step. Right, Googie? All right, yeah. So on top of buying the computer, I also had to get some third-party peripherals and connectivity just to make this system transition seamless. First of all, I got my RAM third-party because unless you're university or college burning money or burning through your budgets, the prices Apple are charging for their memory are absolutely insane. So, I mean, this was still insane. This is 384 gigs of RAM, so 64 gig modules. This came to about, I think it was around $2,800 Canadian with taxes and delivery. So it's still expensive, but Apple was charging way more than that. So RAM's covered. I got this little USB hub off of Amazon, and I think it was $10. I'm gonna use this inside the machine to use my USB dongles. I'll show you more on that later. The only Thunderbolt device I'm gonna have connected to the computer, that is my cat. This is a CalDigit TS3 Plus. It's a Thunderbolt 3 dock. You can plug in monitors, USB, all that kind of connectivity. And with that, a 2-meter Thunderbolt 3 cable. This is an active cable, so the cable can be 2 meters maximum instead of 1. And this is good because my desk and where the Mac Pro rack will be are more than a meter apart. So that was helpful. That was around $80, I think. Thunderbolt 3 to Thunderbolt 2. This is just temporary while I transition an external piece of gear until I find the internal PCIe card variant of the same thing. So that's just to hold me over temporarily. USB-C to DisplayPort. My primary 4K monitor is DisplayPort, so I need this. And my other large television for video playback is 1080p, so I can use the built-in HDMI, so that's fine. And then, this is so stupid, I had to buy this auxiliary power cable kit for the Mac Pro. And like, this thing was almost $90 for a few Molex cables to power my internal PCIe cards. This is like $4 of cables and they charge almost $90. Like, give me a break. But I have no choice, so it's just the cost of doing business. But you know what? So both boxes have these little tearaway tabs. I'm gonna try and do this one-handed. Ooh, there we go. That's that traditional Apple white packaging. This is pretty heavy gauge cardboard. Yeah, so typical, oh, there we go. Mac Pro rack mount rails complete in its own ridiculously overbuilt box. Yeah, look at that. You know, that's why this computer was $18,000 instead of $10,000, because it has this little carry handle made out of fabric. So you got to give Apple credit for one thing, and that is presentation of their product. I mean, if you go to a computer store and you buy, you know, pretty much 90% of everything you buy from those places, it's in like a little cardboard box covered in a piece of plastic and like a, you know, a twist tie or something. It's utter garbage. Whereas even this, like something as utility as rack mount rails, come in a beautifully designed box. It looks nice, it feels good, has a handle. I don't know, it's just, you know, they do pay attention to those little details, and it just oozes quality. Like, I mean, these things are heavy, built well. Anyway, let's get on to the actual unboxing of this bad boy. So this is the Mac Pro Rack box. For scope, like, I'm a big guy, I'm 6'2", and this thing is pretty beefy. Like, it's a bit of a struggle. So let's put this on a bench here. Whew. All right. So this thing has Velcro straps on the side, which is kind of cool. So I can just do that, I guess. And then I guess I unlatch these or something. Let's see. Yeah, so I unlatch these. Feels like a big medical bandage. I'm assuming I just lift this off. Yeah, look at that. Ooh, it's shiny. It looks heavy and beefy. Okay, cables are in one box. Put this over here. Keyboard is in another box. Put this over here as well. And there's some cardboard here. Not too sure the best way to lift this out. So what I'm gonna do is, I have this styrofoam or plastic stuff from the shipping box. I'm just gonna put it on my kitchen table. I am going to lift this thing out, and man, this thing, like, you can already tell it's really well built. I think I'm just gonna slide this off the bench and let the box drop away. Damn, this thing is heavy. So this is about 50 pounds. And it's tankish. Like, this thing is built. So I'm just gonna put this here. And so far, I don't know which side's the top and which side's the bottom. Okay, so it looks like it's wrapped in like a protective sheath. So I'm just gonna take that off. And it looks like these just, I think, peel away. No, maybe not. Let's look here. Oh, that's definitely the top. Ooh, that's made very nicely. Oh, there we go. These cardboard things just come off. I guess this side's the same. Oh, it just pops off. It was that simple. These things are really heavy, and it's literally just these cardboard protectors. No wonder this thing weighed so much when it shipped. All right, so, look at that. So it looks like, actually that looks like the bottom for memory access. And then this has to be the top because the Apple logo is right there. So of course it's the top. I think we can see that in the camera. Yep, okay. So I'm gonna take off all this protection. There's so much protection on this thing. Right. Man, this thing is very well built. I mean, I've built a ton of PCs in my day, you know, including rack mount chassis and stuff, and even just from the outside, nothing compares to this thing. Like, this is really well made. It feels like, wow. I'm impressed so far, and nothing's even happened. I am going to turn this around so you can see this, because this is always the, look at that. I don't have David Duchovny's hands in Zoolander, but man, that is nice. And yeah, this thing is just built. I can't even describe it unless you see one of these in person. Like, it's just, man. Okay, so step one. Okay, We got the beast unwrapped. And I haven't looked at the manuals or anything, but I'm assuming to get inside it, I just have to move these two little unlock latches and lift. Ooh, there we go. Even this top plate is heavy. And then we have full access to the inside. So let's take a look. So here it is. This is the unboxed Mac Pro rack. And I've taken off the top cover so we can take a look inside. And look at that. It's basically the Mac Pro guts in a different form factor. Everything's exactly the same with some minor modifications, I'm guessing. There's not a cable to be seen in this machine. It's kind of impressive, actually. It's a very clean design. I'm impressed. The reason I bought this version over the Tower, two reasons. Number one, all my music equipment is in a 19U rack format. So this fits with all the other equipment I have in my studio. And also, I know this is gonna sound stupid, but I don't like the design of the Tower because you have to unplug every single cable on the back to lift off the top cover. So that means if you wanna add a stick of RAM or change out a card or add another like NVMe blade or something, you have to unplug all your stuff just to take the stupid cover off. Whereas with this, you can leave all your stuff connected, take off the top cover, do your thing, put the cover back on, as a computer should be. And to me, that was worth the additional $500 as well, you know, just to be able to do that. And in my case, all these slots are gonna be full, and each one of those cards has I/O, and a lot of that outside Avid stuff can get kind of finicky if you unplug it all the time. So I love the fact that I can install these cards, leave everything plugged in, not have to worry about it. But there you go. So I got the stock video card, so it's 2 HDMI, and then their I/O card is USB, Thunderbolt 3, and a useless audio connector. Like, seriously, Apple, why even bother? Like, the other thing to note too is all their advertising, it's like, yeah, 7 PCIe slots, blah, blah, blah. But the top card for that I/O, is a card. So unless you plug in everything from the front or you buy the more expensive video card with the Thunderbolt pass-through here, you have to occupy another slot for the I/O. My plan is to use my hub, which I talked about. I'm gonna connect off the front for now, but eventually I'm gonna upgrade the video card to the 5700 when it comes out. So I'll have 4 Thunderbolt ports down here. Then I can take this card out and use this slot as well, because for me anyway, I have plans for every single one of these slots, and I'll get to that in another video. So here's a closer look at the internals. You'll notice that all the PCIe slots have labels for the number of PCI lanes they occupy, which is actually great because there's a lot of motherboards where, you know, they're all the same size, but electronically, they don't tell you if it's actually only 8 lanes or 4 lanes, or maybe it's 16 lanes. This tells you, so that way you can plan on where you want to put your high bandwidth cards. So in my case, I have a 4 NVMe drive carrier that can use all 16 lanes for the highest throughput. So I know at a glance not to put that in slot 6, but I could put that in slot 5, and that's probably where it will go. It can also accommodate full-length cards, which is great because my Avid HDX cards are full-length, so those will populate there. Oddly, there is a lot of dead space here, and I think that's for third-party hard drive enclosures. I wish Apple had abandoned that, utilized this space directly, maybe did a deal with Blackmagic. Instead of 2 SATA ports, have it all internal, and if they had had like 4 SSD drop-in cartridge kind of connectors here. So you could just pop the hood, drop in a 2.5 SSD, and away you go. But nope, they've left this open. And it's also curious because this top slot has this I/O card, but there's so much space where they could have just integrated it and kept this slot free in the first place. So I don't know why they made that decision, but what can you do? You can't win all those battles, right? Speaking of drives, the one thing that really irked me about this design, and again, I wish I had been in the boardroom when they made this call, but why are their SSDs non-standard? They're not even user accessible, and they also don't have integrated drive controllers. They use that T2 chip to control it, which means if your system is on this blade and the blade fails, I think you're expected to bring the entire machine into an Apple store. Like, Are they mental? Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go to the mall and walk through the mall with a $20,000 computer in my arms? Like, does Apple Care come with hired goons to escort me through the parking lot? Like, that's absolutely nuts. So if you are buying this machine, I'd recommend, unless you want the internal storage there for, you know, the odd backup or whatever, get your own PCIe card that can hold SSD blades. And that's what I'm doing. There's a company called Amtheltech that has a really high throughput 4-blade and 6-blade carriers that utilize a 16-time slot. So the performance is amazing. And if I run into issues, I can just pop the hood, take the card out, switch out the blade with the backup, and away I go. Versus their way, which is apparently bringing this into the Apple Store, which is not a good idea. And before, I said I had bought one of these little things. The idea is to put my little USB dongles for my software in this thing, and then just like pop this in right here. And then hopefully there's enough juice from that port to power both of these dongles. And then it's less stuff outside the computer. It's just sitting there nice and comfy. All right, and just for the dorks out there, listen to how well this closes. Oh yeah, like it's solid. Like, again, I can't really show you how well this thing is built until you actually feel one of these things. Like, it's impressive, and it just goes to show how poorly made so many PC cases are, as well as metal rack mount chassis. Like, I am not going to cut myself on bad metal tooling on the inside. Like, this thing is gorgeous. Moving to the rack rails, I haven't hooked them up. When I made this purchase, there was no information on the web about how deep the mounting rails have to be. All that Apple had was just the overall dimension from here to the end of the handle. And like, that's a useless dimension. Like, I needed to know, what's this depth? You know, like from the rack mount face, because a lot of music studio furniture is a lot shallower than, you know, a standard server rack. And I'm not putting this in a server rack. And that's actually created a problem, because now I found out that the minimum mounting distance for these rack rails is 24 inches. So that's about out to here. So that actually, these rails won't actually fit my furniture properly. So what I'm gonna have to do is put some felt feet on the bottom, get an adjustable rear supported rack mount shelf that's like 1U in height, mount it upside down, and just have this thing sit on top. And that's totally fine. It's a bit of a MacGyver-y thing to do, but the pros still outweigh the cons, because I love being able to have full access to the insides without having to unplug a single thing. So it's still worth it in my user case to have the rack mount, even though I can't properly rack it in a server rack. So I've shown you the top, and just like the actual tower, the memory is on the bottom of the motherboard. So to access that, we actually have to turn the machine around. That was an old man noise right there. Okay, so this is the bottom. To access the memory, we just push these two little tabs. And this kind of reminds me of the 5.1 machines to unload the CPU and RAM tray. You just slide these out, it unlatches, and you just lift away. So we have the bottom cover off, and all we have to do now is access our memory compartments. So there's these protective covers. You just press this unlatch thing, these plastic covers pop off. I guess this is for dust and airflow reasons. And here's our RAM, 6 slots per side, so 12 slots total, up to 1.5 terabytes of RAM if you ever needed that much. In my case, I'm putting in 384, and I will be using it, and I'll do another video on that in a bit, but this is just the unboxing. So by default, it ships with 32 gigs of RAM. I don't need this RAM. I'm putting in different modules that are third party. Off the top of my head, I don't know the best slots for best performance for the memory, but the good thing is, on the back of these little covers, it shows you the layout. So it says, oh, if you're using 4 sticks, you lay it out like this. If you're using 6, you lay it out like this. And on it goes, depending on how you populate the machine with memory. So I have 6 blades, so I'm gonna follow this instruction right here. Let's try this. So I'm gonna take these out. There we go. And let me get my little anti-static. Okay, do the same thing over here. Okay, and then based on this, it's saying slots 1, 3, 5, 8, 10, and 12. So just like any kind of RAM, you just make sure the pins line up, and obviously that you have the right spec, because otherwise it won't work. So do that. Okay, so slot 1, there we go, snapped into place. You can hear that snap right away. It's kind of a no-brainer. 10, and there we go. So they're all snapped in. Then you put back in these RAM covers. I'm guessing again, that's an airflow thing. Oh yeah, so it looks like you have to have these tabs down to do this, otherwise it blocks it from being put back. Oh, and it just slots in. Perfect. Make sure these are done. And we'll do the same thing here. And there you go, it just snaps in. Good. So the last thing we have to do is put the RAM cover back on. And you literally just, oh yeah, listen to that. That was a solid snap. Let's listen to that again. Let's open that. You ready? Listen to this. That's like some industrial seal there. So there we go. 384 gigs of RAM is in the machine, and soon enough I will boot this thing up and see what happens. There you go. That is the Mac Pro Rack unboxing. So I started transitioning the old system to the new, including moving the PCIe cards into this machine. And I thought this was a great time to show you why I feel the rack mount is such a better system, especially if you have a lot of connecting peripherals. So I've already unlatched the lid because I'm doing this one-handed and holding my phone. So I've lifted the lid off. Here's all my cards so far. I have 6 out of the 7 cards I want to use. I'm still waiting for the 7th, and then I will take this IO card out and put it there. So I have my full-length Avid cards. I have my 4-bay NVMe card, and then I have my audio interface stuff here. One of them is double width. And if you notice, look how crappy it looks now with all these junky power connectors and IDC ribbons in there. It really takes away from like how clean their design is. It makes you see how well thought out their motherboard and everything is. Like just the fact that there are no cables visible anywhere. Like this just looks so crap. But anyway, I digress. Let's look at the back. So here's the IO for my system. And once my system is set up, each one of these ports has a screw-in cable. I have these BNC connectors here, these fiber cables. There's more of it under here, more fiber here, and then network, which I'll be using, and the monitors. So imagine if I wanted to change out a blade and I had to unhook all this stuff just to replace one stupid component in the machine. Like, that's why this machine was worth an extra $500 to me, because I never want to unhook this stuff if I don't have to. The last time I took these cards out of the carrier thing was like 5 years ago. Like, that's how little I need to disconnect these things. And the fact that I can do all this servicing from above or below once it's in the rack without having to unwire this thing is worth all the money in the world, because it's such a pain in the ass. One thing I did notice build-wise is they have this little hold-down clamp for the brackets. And I noticed on one of my expander brackets, the top lip of it wasn't quite thick enough. So it is a little bit loose, even though this is clamped down as far as it can go. So I am gonna have to put something in there, like a piece of cardboard underneath the bracket, just to push down on this a little bit harder. The only other thing that really bugged me was these cards, need power. So I had to buy that stupid cable kit, and there's no space for the power cable to come up through this way, but the connector is facing outwards the wrong way. So I had to loop it underneath here. It sort of bends over and loops past the CPU cooler. I don't know. I feel like those power cables should have been the other way. Or maybe I could have just used that one right here. But I feel that was a little bit of a design oversight. Also, that auxiliary power kit that was $80, 7 of the cables that it came with, I'll never use in my life. So I feel like they should have had an a la carte option on the Apple Store versus buying this one pack that has every kind of cable combo, because it is kind of wasteful. Man, that gray IDC ribbon looks so cheesy versus all this stuff. Here's an example of that little hub I got. So I have an iLock dongle as well as a Synchrosoft dongle for my Vienna software. And that's why I got this little adapter, because I can put both of them here and they're both there and it's clean. Still haven't tested if it will work yet, but my hope that there is enough power to power these two little dongles, because they don't actually take up that much power. So yeah, let me get back to the other stuff. So unlike server equipment, I feel like this isn't a true rack mount per se for the audio and video side of things, because most of that gear has holes on the front panel. And the idea is you hold it up to a rack frame, you hold it in place, screw it in, and it just sits there. But with this, it's designed purely for a server environment, so it needs these guide rails to hold it up. But as I've said, I have my way to MacGyver my way through this and still use this the way I want. And again, because I can take off the top, access all this stuff without having to unplug anything, this rack variant is the machine for me. So yeah. Okay, so aside from the computer, it also came with a few accessories, not very many. Number one, we have a braided power cable. Ooh. I mean, it's nice, but is it necessary? No, it's a power cable, who cares? So we have that. Number two, it looks like we have some documentation. Got some manuals. Oh, awesome. This is why I spent $20,000, because I wanted these big black stickers to be all douchey and put on my car. No, that's not happening. There's some warnings. What is this here? There's a picture of the computer that I just got, because of course, this is what I need to read. I didn't know that. Oh, okay. What a surprise. Oh, there's a whole bunch of them because, I don't know. There's a picture of the inside. You know, maybe this is supposed to be a brochure if you don't have this computer yet, but what is this supposed to be? Oh, there's the back. That's funny because I see it right here. What the hell is this? Here's some empty pages for notes or something. Oh, and a French manual. Okay, I don't need that. This must be the English manual. Oh, okay, very exciting. Welcome to Mac Pro. Okay, whatever. And it's the same thing, just pictures. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? Owner's guide. This isn't really a guide, this is a picture book. I'm an Apple user, I'm simple. Ooh, pictures, okay. This was worth the money. This was completely unnecessary. I don't know why this exists, honestly. Okay. The interesting note is when I was looking at the more extended manuals on the website, there is a warning saying, do not eat the battery. Like, who in their right mind is going to buy a computer like this, replace a CMOS battery or something and go, oh, yeah, this looks like something I'd eat. Why is that warning number 3 or number 2? It's like right up there in all the warnings. Anyway, weird, who cares? Okay, last but not least, actually this is the second last, we have the keyboard. And this is their new one with the black keys. Gotta admit, looks pretty nice. I mean, it's just a keyboard, who cares? But you know what? It will hide that finger gunge from all that Pro Tools and Logic editing that happens over the years. It's a nice feeling keyboard. It's the same one as usual. My one thing I don't like about any of these is that they're now Bluetooth and wireless. Like, these are at a workstation desk, which is where you spend all your time. Why do I have a need for a wireless keyboard? Like, what am I gonna do? Like, suddenly take my keyboard and go across the room and type? No, of course not. I'm gonna be sitting at my workstation. So I get they're trying to be all slick and stuff, but it's completely useless and unnecessary. I'll end up having their lightning cable hardwired to the computer or the hub or something. Like, it just seems like an unnecessary thing. And I'm assuming there is a lightning cable in here somewhere, or maybe it's somewhere in the box. I don't care right now, whatever. So we got that. It comes with the Magic trackpad. I hate it, I don't use it, I don't care. I have my own mouse ball Kensington thing that I've been using forever. That's what I'll still continue to use. Maybe I'll take that and use it on my iMac or something in the house for the home office or something, I don't know. So the takeaway is, you know, aside from this nice computer, I got these like nice stickers, and there you go, my Apple fanboy is swooning. These stickers are kind of black like my heart. So I don't think I mentioned before which machine I actually bought. And the answer to that is the 28 core with a 1 terabyte boot drive on it. And for now, the base level video until the 5700X comes out. So here's the thing. Was this computer worth $20,000 once I added in the RAM and the taxes and all that stuff? Now this is 20 grand Canadian, so it's a little bit less on the US side. But for me, it was $20,000 and this was my money. And I was just like, this is the most expensive computer I have ever bought in my life. Was it worth it? And the answer is a reluctant yes. And here's why. I'm taking 2 of these machines, consolidating down to 1. All the outside Thunderbolt peripherals and PCI Express adapter things and boxes and all those things that had bandwidth issues because of these ports and whatever, it's all going into one machine. Unified, clean, less wiring, less fan noise. Like this thing, I haven't heard this one yet. I've heard the Mac Pro. That thing is silent. So having all this stuff in here and silent, losing an entire kitchen table's worth of cables and mess and junk, that's worth it. Also, on the kind of work I do, half the time my second machine would be idle. So I wouldn't be able to utilize all those threads. Whereas now, because it's on a unified machine, if the software not using all that extra horsepower, that horsepower is available for my main primary applications, which is great. And I run some pretty substantial apps. I'll get to that in a different video. But yeah, I mean, it's the cost of doing business, unfortunately. And realistically, I have a lot of equipment in my studio that wasn't that much cheaper than what this thing was. So, you know, you might be like, holy crap, I can't believe you Apple fanboys spent that much money on a computer. But you haven't seen the amount of money I've had to spend on Avid gear and Pro Tools gear. And that's just another story of hell right there that I don't want to get into. But it was the cost of doing business. Having that stuff allows me to make money and pay for all this stuff. So it's sort of one of those, you know, chicken and egg things. Would I like to run, you know, a Threadripper? Yes, but can I risk running a Hackintosh and mission critical kind of things with clients in the room? No. So I'm in this ecosystem I can't escape, and I will get to that in another video. I just don't want you to think, yeah, let's go spend that much money for no reason because it's Apple and it's shiny. It's like, no, I have a business to run. I need the tools. This is the tool that I needed. So this was my option. So I guess I'm just trying to give you excuses and just to justify this sheer madness. Anyway, so after filming the unboxing of the Mac Pro rack earlier and taking a bit of a break, I decided, hey, I might as well start ripping my systems apart and just getting this machine into service as fast as possible. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't do this, but because I have a little bit of downtime before my next show, I just decided, hey, I'm just gonna tear it all apart. So, through the magic and wonder of a kitchen table, I'm gonna show you what my systems were like before and what they will be after this transition. And I think you'll agree with me that the new way is a lot cleaner and way more simple. So, check this out. So here's my previous DAW setup. And this doesn't include outside rack mount gear or anything. This is just the core computer stuff that runs my life, basically, when I'm at work. So what do we have? We have 2 2013 Mac Pros. They're both identical in spec. They're 2.7 gigahertz, 12 core, 120 gigs of RAM, and a 1 terabyte system. I have this add-on daughter card in here called an Amphiltech Angel Shark that allows you to add 2 additional NVMe blades internally, which is kind of amazing because there's barely any space inside this thing, but they were able to pull that off. That eased some stress off of the Thunderbolt ports for bandwidth issues. And speaking of Thunderbolt, look at all this Thunderbolt stuff. So full-size Sonnet that allows you to put 3 full-length cards in here. In my case, it's 3 Avid HDX cards. I also have a smaller Sonnet that takes half-length cards, only 2. And electronically, it won't do 16x either. It'll only do 8, I believe. So it's already a compromise getting into the computer, which is annoying. On top of that, I have another Firmtech Thunderbolt to single PCI solution that housed a sound card on my second computer. On top of that, we have a Universal Audio U82 Octa DSP accelerator and an external box that connects via Thunderbolt. We also have an Army MattyFace XT and it can run USB 3, but it's higher performance if it's PCI Express. So through a bit of whatever, I have PCI Express to an external Express card 34, which goes into an Express card 34 Thunderbolt 2 adapter, and then that goes into the system, and then it's as efficient as PCI Express internal hardware. And to cap it all off, I have these two rack mount sort of doohickeys that allow you to mount these computers sideways into a rack space this high. So there's a lot of stuff here. It's cumbersome, there's a lot of crap, there's a lot of power cables. Not ideal. And the previous generation Mac Pro before this, I still didn't have enough PCIe slots to integrate all this stuff anyway. So it was just a kind of a disaster of infrastructure. So with the new Mac Pro, this actually solved a lot of problems. So let's take a look. So it's all come down to this. Everything you saw on that kitchen table in front of me has been consolidated into this box. All those outside supporting PCIe Thunderbolt chassis things, cards are taken out, put in the machine. External DSP at the front of the table. There's a PCIe variant I can now use in the machine. That external 192 channel MADI card, there's a PCIe version of it, so able to put it in the machine. So basically, all those cables and converters and adapters and workarounds and all that crap gone, and I'm end up with this. So honestly, I think it was a smart move. It was an expensive move, but I think it's going to simplify my life, and it's just way less stuff to deal with at the end of the day. Obviously, there is sort of a single point of failure here if the computer goes down, but if my computer went down before, I couldn't work anyway, so it's sort of moot. I think because it is an Apple product, it will hold its value for a long time. I mean, the fact that I can still sell a computer from 7 years ago for almost $2,000 says a lot, especially in the computer business. So yeah, this thing will make its money back, and then whenever it's time to move on, and hopefully Apple will make a deal with AMD and it will all be Threadrippers and whatever, I'll buy another one and sell this one, and maybe I'll be making another video or 3D virtual whatever it is in 7 or 8 years. So until then, I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment. See you later.